Well, of course, this is Fantasy Author's Handbook, but that means that I have to be Phil. August 2024 book haul video begins now. In the end of this, I'll talk a little bit about why this might be the last one for a little bit. Oh, no. Anyway, let's start this off with, I buy a book every Wednesday. I have been buying a book every Wednesday. I'm recording this on a Wednesday and I didn't buy a book today. You'll find out why at the end of this video. But I'm going to start with, these are the books that I bought, just ordered. Usually I'm almost always just order from Amazon on Wednesday because I have this gigantic wish list of books that just anytime somebody says somewhere out there, I hear about it online in some way, right? YouTube, etc. Anything, right? Anything people are saying, oh, this book is interesting. If I think it sounds interesting too, I'll sort of park it on there. So for the reasons that I'll tell you about a little bit, or, right at the end of this, budgets are a little tight. So I thought, oh, you know what you can do, what Amazon allows you to do, is sort your wish list by price, right? Lowest to high. So I did that. And I found some books that had been discounted. I don't know why. They were just not expensive. So this little batch of books here, 4 of them in all, that arrived in my hands in August of 2024, all of these were from Amazon, were under $12 all in. And I think you will agree that I got some great stuff at low prices. Here they are. First up then, They Drown Our Daughters, a novel by Katrina Monroe. What is this? It's a horror novel from 2 years ago, right? Otherwise, I have no idea, except that it sounded good to past Phil. It looks good, right, if that means anything. It's bumping the tripod adds extra horror to the situation here. It says it's part modern Gothic, part ghost story. So, yes, please, right? If you can hear the call of the water, it's already far too late. Somebody recommended this to me. I heard about this somewhere. Was it online? Was it on Twitter? Was it on a BookTube video? I don't know. I don't remember. And it doesn't matter. Past Phil said, ooh, that sounds interesting. Let's put that on our Amazon wish list. And so then in August, there it was. It must have been on sale. It was inexpensive. It's a brand new book. They Drown Our Daughters by Katrina Monroe. Excited to have this because, you know what? I love going into books cold, even though at some point in the past somebody said, hey, this is good, whatever, this is here, and it just, I don't know, whatever, right? But knowing really very little about it other than what I just saw on the back cover, I tend to try not to read cover copy because I love going in as cold as possible. I will go into They Drown Our Daughters cold. Very spooky title, right? That's a good start already. They Drown Our Daughters, a novel. Katrina Monroe. Slide that over here to make room for. Look, any book with monster in the title. You know how I feel about monsters. This is Dinner on Monster Island by Tanya De Rosario. What? Right? There was something else, obviously, other than just monster in the title. The cover is gorgeous. I mean, that's beautiful. Just beautifully done. This is not fiction. These are essays. So clearly there was something else motivating me to drop this collection of personal essays on my list, right? Not just, I don't just automatically buy every book with monster in the title. Maybe I should start doing that. And I could be the foremost collector of books with monster in the title. Anyway, see, don't say that. Don't think that stuff, because then I end up doing that. Anyway, the only reason, or the only way, right, to find out what triggered past Phil to put this on the Amazon list is to read it. We are all monsters inside. You know, are we? I don't, well, if that's an assertion that this author is making, now I'm interested to read why she would believe that. But again, beautiful. It's a tight little package, a collection of personal essays about the monster within. I don't know. Past Phil thought it sounded really cool. And again, not just because of the word monster in the title. I'm excited to have this because just like They Drown Our Daughters, I'm going into this one cold. I don't know what to expect, so I'm ready for anything. Likewise, 10 Planets by Yuri Herrera. These are short stories. A collection of literary science fiction stories, as far as I can see. So yeah, right, of course I'm in. This was published in 2019 and translated from the Spanish by Lisa Dillman. So okay, non-homegrown sci-fi? I don't know, right? Even though the author is here now apparently teaching at Tulane University in New Orleans. And why not? Another one and again, I had sorted my list by what can I get without spending, 25, 30, 40, whatever dollars. So these are going to tend to be smaller books, right? Shorter books. Obviously trade paperback books and not hardcovers. So that's the theme, right? That I could get this from Amazon relatively inexpensively. I don't know, I have this feeling, and I get these feelings about books, and don't you get feelings about books? Of course you get feelings about books. So there was a feeling about this when I saw it on the list, and I thought, do I remember putting that on there? No. Do I remember where that was recommended to me again? No. But wow, look at that. Right? And then when it showed up in the mail, finally I was like, yeah, okay. I think so far these books are going to hop up on the TBR. I always say that. But, good stuff there. So finally, of the Wednesday books, this is the last book, I absolutely remember putting this on the list. After reading an interview with the author in the Paris Review, I just knew I had to read it. She spent a lot of that interview talking about it. This is Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid. I'll try to find a link to that interview if I can, and if it isn't behind the Paris Review paywall. But anyway, it sounds like it's a sort of autofiction zeroing in on the immigrant experience. It's a young Jamaican woman comes to America and gets a job as a nanny. That in itself is, a setup that could go in lots of different directions, obviously. But why this is here is that just the author really made an impression on me in that interview. She just came across as amazingly smart. The way she talked about the writing of this book and what she was concentrating on in this book that I think she thought maybe surprised people about it. It was just like, I need to read this. And is it, sometimes you judge a book by the cover or by a review or whatever. In this case, I'm sort of judging the book, right, or being attracted to the book by the things that the author has said. And I think that's a great way to find a book, isn't it? I just love those Paris Review interviews. I look for author interviews out there in the world. And if an author impresses you the way Jamaica Kincaid impressed me, then it's a must. It's a must buy. It's a must read, right? And again, are they just thin books? This one has been out for a minute. There's, large type. I'm trying to avoid hitting my tripod and stuff here. But, right? I don't know. This one, this is another one. I always make this promise. I was going to get pushed up on my TBR. I'm just really fascinated to read the book that she spoke so eloquently about in the Paris Review. All right. Those were the Wednesday books, the book a week for August of 2024. Those arrived into my hands in August of 2024. Yeah, you know, it's hard for me to go to the library and just pass up that little section right at the door, the Friends of the Library perpetual book sale. I went to the library. I go to the library. You should go to your local library. Support your library always, yeah? And I walked by and I said, well, let's see if there's anything good. There was some good stuff there. The Land of the $1 paperback, the $2 hardcover. Wait till you see some of the cool stuff that I happened upon for like, I don't know what that added up to. Like $6 or something like that. $6, $7, $8. Here they are. The library sale, starting with Witches. I'll hold it up a little bit so we can get a good look at this. By Rosalind Shanzer. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. This is the absolutely true tale of disaster in Salem. Look at how gorgeous this book is. It was $2. There's even still a sticker on there. I will do my best to get this off. This is going to be hard because it's got kind of a paper dust jacket here. National Geographic books, right? How about that? And look at how groovy this is. I mean, this is one, if I hit the microphone and that made a weird noise, I apologize. Right under the dust jacket, what? Gorgeous. Paper over board, right? Printed case material. I'm going to eject that for a second. Oh, lovely. Beautiful, vivid red end papers and what's happening inside. Vividly illustrated, richly illustrated. Looks like two-color printing, right? Black and red. Look at these like kind of cartoony pictures wherein the stage is set. Obviously a very, not a super long book. It's not, doesn't certainly pretend to be like the exhaustive history of the Salem witch trials and just the horror of that. But how do you pass this up for $2? Just tremendous. I'm not going to flip through all of the illustrations. You're going to have to go find a copy of this yourself. I mean, really, really, it's the devil. Amazing. I just found this and I just thought, well, in just the library sale, benefiting the Friends of the Library, you see this for $2, and what are you doing if you don't buy that, right? This is one of those where I would have been like 10 years later, God, I should have bought that little book on witches from by the library for $2. Gorgeous. So anyway, I'm a big fan of the movie The Hours, which if you haven't seen it is just the master class in acting. An amazing cast at the top of their games. Very much inspired, based on a novel that was very much inspired by the novel Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, which after seeing the movie, I always thought, this is the Virginia Woolf novel I should read. Pardon me. I will admit now, in public, having never read anything by Virginia Woolf. So it was on my Amazon wish list. It even says, the novel that inspired The Hours. How about that? It was on my Amazon wish list. It was. I saw it. It was $1. Lovely condition, right? Not, obviously, with, the kind of movie tie-in stuff and all that. Obviously not some kind of collector's anything at all, right? But inside, of course, is just the text of the novel, Mrs. Dalloway, by Virginia Woolf, that I know has that famous first line. Let's read it. Oh, it's after, of course, there's a foreword, which I don't know about you, but I always read introductions and forewords to books like this after I finished actually reading the novel itself. I found so many of them are just spoiler-rich environments, which just drives me crazy. What's that? Free indeed, someone wrote. I love it. I've talked about this before. I love it when I find used books that have been annotated in some way. Love that. But that famous first line, right? Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself. And then it just hangs there for a second. Ah, terrific. Goes on to the soon and inevitably to be read pile. So, speaking of books that I should have read or authors I should have read, I don't have any Kierkegaard on my religion and philosophy shelf. So, this $1 find has taken care of that. Edifying Discourses, a selection, right, by Soren Kierkegaard. We're just going to pause here for a second, right? This is just a terrific old 1958 Harper Torch Book edition. You don't pass this up for $1. You do not walk away from this for $1. Will it prove edifying? I have no idea. It does not matter. Well, yes, of course it matters. Everything matters. Again, look, there's a little bit of it's more than a little bit of a broken spine, but we shall survive. Someone has underlined doubtless because it is convinced that the higher a man stands, the more he needs God. Not sure, just out of context, that I think that that's true, but I don't have to go with everything that Kierkegaard says. I don't know. Right? Can we please just look at how beautiful this book is? The paper cover, yeah. Been on Earth for a long time, may have been annotated by more than one reader. Once I get to it, it will be anyway, yeah. Tremendous. There's the table of contents if you're interested. Kierkegaard, Edifying Discourses. I expect them to be edifying. All right, so yeah, there's Sourland by Joyce Carol Oates. So you have, of course, seen my big library sale book haul video, right, where I went to the proper, I think they do it twice a year, big sale. There was a volunteer there who saw me with a Joyce Carol Oates book in my hand and said, "Oh, you like Joyce Carol Oates? Oh, there's one over here. And then there's one over here." And then she kept handing me books. And I bought a bunch of them. Apparently, we both missed Sourland here. This is the one that got away, right? Second printing hardcover from 2010. It's another short story collection. And I love short stories. And I love good collections of short stories. There is something, looks like tape on the back cover, which now I'm just making worse. I will fix that. I will remove that with care. But otherwise, the book is in, otherwise terrific shape. It does look like somebody has read it, which is fine. Of course. But here we have the stories. I'm not going to read them all. But if you want to pause here and see what stories are in it, that you are absolutely free to do that. But yeah, just another collection of short stories from the amazingly prolific and just in general amazing Joyce Carol Oates. There she is herself. Sourland goes onto the JCO shelf with many, many other books. Got to start reading those. I say this all the time. You know why? Because I got to start reading some of these books, hey? How about that? All right, that was the stuff that I found at the library sale, just at the front door of the library. If I worked for the government, I would call it extra budgetary spending. So in this case, though, I was dragged kicking and screaming. I was really, there were zip ties involved. Something was thrown over my head, and I was taken completely against my will to half-price books and forced to buy these. Every time I'm in any used bookstore in particular, the first thing I look for are ace doubles. Okay, I have most of the ace science fiction doubles already, not all of them, and so when I run across one in the wild that I don't already have, well, sometimes I just have to pay $35 for one. I will put this in a better bag myself. Let's see if we can get that glare off of there. Doom of the Green Planet by Emil Petaja. You know, I should probably, if I were, you know, like a professional television personality, I would probably have looked up the pronunciations of names of authors before I do what I do to people. But I know that everyone knows that Phil comes from a place of love, especially when it's ace doubles. I'm going to take this out in a minute. But anyway, I come across one and I have to just sometimes pay $35 for one. Doom of the Green Planet is not why this costs $35. It's the other side, which is Star Quest. You can't see it, but it's Star Quest by Dean R. Koontz. Yes, that Dean R. Koontz. I'm going to take this out of the bag now so we can get a better look at it. It's got this cover art that we will see without this way oversized bag. Let's see if you can see me get this out of here without the tape getting on it. I just wanted you to know that I actually spent $35 on this because that's how much I care when it comes to ace doubles. Lovely, right? This one, Doom of the Green Planet. Jerome Podwell responsible for the cover art on this one. But we're going to have to be here to talk about the Dean Koontz book. They drove a salient into another universe. I don't know exactly what that means. I guess I'm going to have to read the book, huh? All right. I have in my notes, this was a wrong date, so I'm going to ignore my notes. I'm going to look it up. 1968, I wrote 1986 because, oops, it doesn't matter. Anyway, 1968. This is when Dean Koontz was an up-and-coming science fiction author. And that was well before he became a hugely best-selling horror author, kind of riding that Stephen King wave into the, right, at least through the late 70s and through the 80s for sure, right? Dean Koontz wrote a lot, sold a lot of books. So these are hard to find, though, these old ace doubles that contain his early sci-fi work. Because apparently, or from what I understand, he's disavowed these. Like, I never wrote any, like, sci-fi books that were half of an ace double, which I think people, you know, even then unfairly dismissed. When you're seeing really early work by authors like Ursula K. Le Guin, Philip K. Dick, etc. And hey, man, Dean R. Koontz writing sci-fi. So anyway, these old SF books are not in print in any other form. And you know the ace, if this is your first time seeing an ace double, you gotta see this, right? You're reading Star Quest by Dean R. Koontz, you're like, oh, this better be worth $35, yo. And then you get to where there's ads and stuff, and it's like, well, it's upside down, because you gotta flip over, start all over fresh with Emil Pataja? We don't know. We're going with that anyway, and then you're reading along, right? Love, adore, love these, okay? So anyway, Dean R. Koontz writing science fiction, which I know people are not accustomed to. They are hard to find. The Star Quest is actually the first of his 4 ace double appearances, and he wrote 5 actual books in all. I have now, and why do you pay $35? Because I now have all of the Dean Koontz ace doubles. Hooray. Here's one, for instance. The Fall of the Dream Machine. I'm not going to take these out of the much better fitting plastic. This one was a Kenneth Bomer book. The Star Venturer is on the other side. Right? Fall of the Dream Machine. Pretty cool. Here's another. Dean R. Koontz. Soft Come the Dragons. Down the past of future nights into the, I was going to say mustard dawns. Well, that would have been way more psychedelic. The mutated dawns. Ooh, right? Cover is really intriguing. Yeah. On the back is yet another Dean R. Koontz, Dark of the Woods. Fly, natives, for victorious humanity is coming. Do I think that's a Frazetta cover? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Phil has to open it up now. That sure looks like, if it's not Frazetta, that's somebody trying to look like Frazetta. Jeff Jones. I see you, Jeff Jones. You're a Frazetta fan. I know what that's like. So am I, buddy. I'm putting this back in the bag, and I'm being careful about it. And so that's why I'm not reaching around the tripod to do this. This is the part of the video that you're going to remember the most. And then the last one, which this is the only one so far that I've read. This was good, really good too, actually, Against Arcturus by Susan K. Putney. Very much an author that I really like this book. And where is she? I don't know. Right? There's Dean R. Koontz down there on the bottom, right? Telepaths versus Alien. Time Thieves. Not my favorite cover. Maybe that's why he was mad about these. I don't know. But, there it is. So these are all of the ace double, science fiction ace doubles by Mr. Koontz. We will keep this out of the terrible bag and put that there where it won't get hurt. Right? Excited. I mean, I know I'm just a huge nerd, but whatever, man, whatever. All right. So also on my list, because I had book 1 and book 2 of, these are books I already had. It goes in this order. Come on, man, get it together. Book 1 and book 2 of the epic trilogy To the Stars by Harry Harrison. I had to put the third one on my list, of course, and half-price books. Lo and behold, they're on the shelf for like, $1.99 with Star World, yeah. Trilogy complete. Now all I have to do is read it. And how do I know that this is book 3 in the epic trilogy To the Stars? Because it says so. And I'm a firm believer, if you know any of my stuff from Wizards of the Coast from back in the day, I am a big fan of a trilogy, right, or series trade dress that is consistent throughout. Maybe not the most dynamic covers, right? The guy in the jacket. It's the jacket. The jacket. But there's a lot going on here, right? Kind of red, white, and blue vibe. 1, 2, and now 3. Star World by Harry Harrison. We'll stick those on top of Mr. Koontz. A lot of writing power right there. Very excited to find that. Also on my list, believe it or not, okay, so I go back and forth on Robert A. Heinlein. I'm not a huge fan. At the same time, though, I have liked some of his stuff that I've read. People out there in the world, right, even people who share my kind of iffiness with Heinlein, rank The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, as one of his best, or one of his better books anyway. And that was really what put it on my list. Okay, people are saying, yeah, we get it, not everything by Heinlein is great, but here's the short list of books that are. I obviously have more of his books up in my giant paperback to be read stack, and others on at least one others on the big shelf in the sort of main library. But this was on my list. There it was. Obviously not, again, some kind of collectible first edition or anything. But, I can't imagine that there's somebody out there desperate for the 14th printing of the 1987 Ace edition. That also made it very inexpensive for me. They did, around this time, all the Heinlein books, or many of the Heinlein books in this unique trade dress here. Cover's pretty groovy. I don't know, right? The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by one of the kind of founders of, I guess, what you would have to call hard science fiction, right? Back in the Astounding days. So another Heinlein moves on deck for me, right, into the giant random to be read piles. So could I be more excited about a book than I was to find that Dean Koontz Ace Double? Also on my list. I moved the stack forward for dramatic purposes. So some time ago, I found a small handful of these Robert E. Howard books from Zebra. These are really hard to find. Zebra is kind of a, is there a polite way to say kind of a lower tier publisher, but, no disrespect because these books are actually super cool. By Robert E. Howard. I'm a big Robert E. Howard fan. So these are the books that I had already, right? It says Robert E. Howard, the most colorful Robert E. Howard character since Conan. So you'll see Conan is pretty prominent on the cover. This is not a Conan book. This is Tigers of the Sea, which introduces Cormac McCart, right? So these are the ones that I had already. I had this one, special illustrated edition. Oh. Do I have attention deficit disorder? I might. I keep flipping right past the illustrations. Oh, nice. All right, whatever. These are the ones that I had already. But you can see how just fun they are. Wrap covers, yes. Kaboom. Bran McMorn. Now they're putting Conan all the way up in the front, so I already had this one again, Worms of the Earth. Also here, Breckenridge Elkins. Agent from Bear Green. I don't even know what this is. I think this might be a Western. That's okay by me. Oh, there's a bear. There's a bear and a leopard somehow. I don't know what the heck is going on here. Robert E. Howard's Legendary Fantasy Warriors or blah, 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 blah. I don't know. But just kind of Robert E. Howard, so it's just crazy. Like crazy fun pulp fiction, right? Here's the last of the four that I had, The Incredible Adventures of Dennis Dorgan. Again, leaning into Conan, but these are non-Conan Robert E. Howard books, which... Oh, it's Phil from the future jumping in real quick. I also have this other one, The Iron Man. I didn't grab all of them off my shelf. Terrible. Which I still am delighted to have. And I thought, well, they had this whole collection of them in Zebra. They all look very nice together. So I need to collect these, of course. And so I did. And so on my list, I basically have a list of which ones I have. So when I saw this one and knew that I didn't have it at Half Price Books, just sitting there, dutifully filed under H for Howard, it was like, yeah, what? I haven't found one of these. I haven't seen one in ages. I've looked them up on places like eBay and thought, no, am I going to spend that much money? I don't know. $1.99 for this one, right? So yeah, man, it's the Vultures of Wapiton. Wapiton? I'm going to say Wapiton by Robert E. Howard. This was a story, right? It's a short novel, right? Originally published in Smashing Novels magazine. Why is there not still a Smashing Novels magazine in my life? In December of 1936, so that was a minute ago. This Zebra edition here that I'm holding is from November 1975, so in its own is pert near 50 years old. This appears to be, right, in my hardly exhaustive research, the first time this story was published in book form, which is super cool. Covered by Jeff Jones. Hey, were we making fun of Jeff Jones just a minute ago? We kind of were. I withdraw every kind of snarky thing I said about him copying Frazetta. He's groovy. Look at the art on here. Jeff Jones, FTW. There's nothing not to love about this, right? The great wrap cover, vultures included. I'm even down with this cigarette ad. Come on, kids. Wow, right? A product of its time, the mid-1970s. Zebra Books, Kensington Publishing. So there we go. Now I have 5. I can't remember offhand, and I didn't write it in my notes how many of these there are. I will get them all I will get them all. I will get them all, because that's how I do. That is how I actually do. I'm going to leave these out there because they're so super groovy. And so anyway, and certainly on subject here, you've seen my Conan video because you've seen all my videos. And if you haven't seen the Conan video, just tell me that you have, and then go back and make an honest person of yourself and actually go watch that. In that video, I said, hey, I need to be looking at some of these Conan pastiche novels from back in the day too, right? And just in for a penny, in for a pound, man, come on. Like, you're either into Conan or you're not into Conan. I'm into Conan. So found a couple of these. These were really, really inexpensive, you know. And again, one man's trash is another man's treasure. I hereby treasure Conan, the Sword of Skelos by Andrew Offutt. Are you seeing this? Am I putting it in the right place so that it's on camera? Because I'm a professional television star. No, I'm not. Pretty cool, right? Conan. A little bit, you know, not quite as Schwarzeneggered out there, Conan. Looking a little like he's trimmed down a little bit. Doing a little bit more cardio, Conan. It's number 3. I know they started numbering them, and I think they eventually gave up on that, or pretty quickly gave up on that. What are we talking about? This is the later 1982 printing, so not the first edition or anything from Bantam. Tim Kirk is the artist, and there's interior illustrations in here I'm going to flip through because they're hilarious. I mean, tribal amulet. Spoiler alert, they are all pictures of items. I mean, these are things that you know what, I mean, if you're running a D&D campaign, you're just going to want to scan these, right? And these are items that people, right? Saddle. In case you're like, if you're reading along, like, they mentioned something called a saddle. You know, you're like, what's a saddle? Oh, okay. So that's what a saddle looks like. And it just goes on like that. But how much fun is this? Sorcerer's Table. Tell me that isn't just in a room in your dungeon right now that you could use that picture right away and just be like, it looks like that. Oh, fantastic. Shenki Tabard. We can't look at all of them. Brazen earrings and anklet. Oh, brazen. You're so brazen with your anklet and your earrings. Here's another table. Because you got the most important thing about a Conan adventure story is definitely the furniture. That's what you really, I think, you know, as an editor, right, of a Conan series, I would definitely, that would be my primary focus would be on the furniture. I'm joking, of course. Conan the Valorous by John Maddox Roberts is the next one. I don't think this has any interior illustrations at all. It appears not to. This is also a slightly newer edition. This is from Tor, 1986, and you'll see that there's no more numbers as we've jumped publishing companies and so on, or at least imprints, yeah. 1986. I'm okay with this being not the first edition or whatever, and I would be okay with that in general, but this one has the Boris Vallejo cover. Yay, Boris. Right? Conan's looking a little bit, I hate it when I do that. Conan is looking a little bit more cut there, right? On the left, Boris gets a little bit more strength training in. This has this special bonus. Where does it start? I don't know. But it's got this bonus essay by Elsprague de Camp. It looks like it's kind of a, you know, history of Conan and the Hyborian world and all of that kind of stuff, the Hyborian age. What's not to love? I have a feeling the essay is reprinted from the older Conan books that I have already that you saw in the Conan video, which absolutely you have watched that video. You probably watch it at least once a day. Right. No? Are you saying no? That you don't watch my Conan video once a day, religiously? That's okay, I don't either. So, William Gibson, I read Neuromancer way back in the day when it was still, kind of new. When it was really, maybe just had come out in mass market paperback. And I'm promising myself, right, that I will finally, eventually, do a full read of at least the books I haven't already read by William Gibson. I've read a few. And I'm sort of collecting them in sets, right, in the sort of trilogies, etc. And I'm about 90% sure I did read this way back in the day because I definitely remember at least a couple of the stories. And when I say back in the day, remember, I'm not a young person, so that wasn't like 3 years ago. That was like years ago, like 30 years ago almost, 35 years ago. So I found this copy, used copy of Burning Chrome. Yeah, man. So snatched it up. All right, seriously, everybody. Are you ever in a bookstore and you see something and you literally gasp? You go like, oh. I saw this, I gasped, and I immediately paid $10 for, I'm taking it out of the bag. And again, this is another one, I have a bag that will fit this. Get rid of that. Eye in the Sky by Philip K. Dick, complete novel. Something had upset the natural laws of the universe. Look at that. Absolutely fantastic. 1957 Ace edition. This is the first printing of this early PKD novel anywhere. It's not in perfect shape, obviously, being as old as it is anyway. And, at the time, who the hell is this Philip K. Dick guy? Broken Spine, I don't love, but I don't care. This is how Philip K. Dick paid the bills, right? By writing sci-fi that was published in paperback and kind of went out there, and people are like, people in the know, right? People who actually read it were like, yeah, this guy's got chops, this guy's good. And in these earlier, and I've read a bunch of the earlier P.K. Dick books, P.K. Dick or PKD, Philip K. Dick books. I've got a couple in Ace Double, right? He was being published by Ace at this time. And they're fantastic. And when you compare them to The Man in the High Castle and that kind of stuff, Valis, his later, much more, mature books, right? These early ones, which definitely read like sci-fi adventure stories, because that's what they were, that's what he was going for. And that's what certainly Ace was looking for at this period. But everything about what everybody loves about Philip K. Dick is still evident in these older books. It's all in there, right? This questioning of reality and the sense of there's this a kind of a conspiracy, not really, maybe to control our minds but not literally, but to kind of push us in certain directions, and that there's like hidden powers out there and all that kind of stuff. They're all here. But this was just amazing. And yeah, right, I think worth $10 for sure. It was worth $10 to me, worlds within worlds. The first edition of Eye in the Sky by Philip K. Dick. Again, not one of his better known books, but wow. Early P.K. Dick. I buy these if I see them just automatically, and this isn't the only one I have of his early stuff, including Ace Doubles. Wow. So anyway, in previous videos, which because as you're watching this, you have your notebook open and you've got the notes from all of my previous videos that you've seen and taken note of, that I'm a big fan of the UKA format paperback. So when I see them out there, and they're rare to come across here in the States United. So when I run across them, I tend to just snatch them up anyway. But so this one, I found a Penguin book by John Brunner, Telepathist. I don't really know anything about this. This is 1968, first paperback edition from Penguin, of course. What more can I say? It looks fascinating. And I just adore, this is the thing. Oh, Gerald Howson was hopelessly and hideously crippled, a runt who shuddered at the sight of his own face. But he was the greatest curative telepathist in the world's most irreplaceable person. He could project 6,000 miles and undo the knots in any man's mind. He could have anything he wanted except the life that only Rudy could give him. For copyright reasons, this edition is not for sale in the USA until many, many years later in a used bookstore in, where were we? Bellevue, Washington. Anyway, looks cool, right? Groovy. And I just like the feel of them. They're different than US mass market paperbacks. They feel different. They look different. They read differently in some way, and I enjoy them. There's a little sticker residue on this one. Can you hear it? I'm going to work on that. I will get rid of that before anything else happens. Well, no. First, we'll take a look at The Dark Light Years by Brian Aldiss, also in this super groovy UK edition. Boy, do I own a lot of books by Brian Aldiss. I should probably maybe start reading some. Anyway, no way do I pass up this 1972 New English Library edition. There are the 3 more of Aldiss's books that they were publishing at the time. Bruce Pennington cover. Yeah. Lovely. What is it, though? Right? I'm literally just like, it's one of those UK books. Oh, I love those. And, obviously I have read some Aldiss, right? So, these are authors that I know. Can I read this to you? Am I going to get in trouble even for reading the cover copy of this? Let's go. Civilization is the distance that man has placed between himself and his own excreta. Excreta? Doesn't matter. At least that's what Master Space Explorer Ainson thought. I want to be a Master Space Explorer. That was before man stumbled unexpectedly on an alien race. They looked at it rather differently. They believed that civilization was the proximity of man to his own excreta. Excreta. Excrement? Excreta. It means poop. I'm just going to say poop. It was strange. Man could never communicate with the aliens, yet somehow their ideas communicated themselves only too easily. In no time at all, Earth was devastated by a terrible conflict. Apparently the conflict between, do you poop where you eat or not? This challenging novel of interplanetary morality is one of the finest by Brian Aldiss, Britain's leading writer of science fiction. It sounds like I'm making fun of that, but that is a crazy idea for that kind of clash of cultures that is so prevalent in science fiction, right? Especially in First Contact, SF. These are going, the PKD won't. It goes in the special Philip K. Dick shelf with all the rest of his books that I own. Okay, so yeah, I love the UK A format paperbacks. I also love these, the science fiction book club editions. This is Coys by Fred Saberhagen and Roger Zelazny. I love these for the same reason, or a lot of people don't like them. They are very cheaply made, right? Note, obviously they always say book club edition, but you can tell. They're definitely not the original hardcover, and in some cases these were the only hardcover editions of books that were interior illustrations, groovy, that were originally published in paperback original. Yeah, this one has this terrific wrap cover by Ron Miller. Dynamite. But for me, I think as much as very similar to my love for ace doubles is the nostalgia thing. As a kid, I would go through the library and they just had tons of them in the science fiction section of the local library, the ace doubles. And I would be like, this is the coolest thing in the world. There's 2 books and they're upside down. Just love the concept of it. As a kid and then a young, all the way up through being a young adult and even really kind of to where it started to come to an end. I was an on-again, off-again member of the Science Fiction Book Club. I've had a ton of these. I still have some. Some I inexplicably got rid of. Like, why don't I have the Dragon Riders of Pern collection still, which I read when I was in high school and loved? Why don't I still have the Foundation trilogy? Like, why did I get rid of that? Where did that go? So when I see these Science Fiction Book Club editions, I tend to, not always, right, because sometimes they put prices on them where it's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to pay, $40 for that, $20 or something for it. So when I see them at a price, I do tend to snatch them up, right? So authors I've read before, obviously. There's just nothing about this book that's telling me not to read it. The Ron Miller wrap cover we saw, and we sort of got a peek at some of these interior illustrations that are also very groovy. Oh, what's going on there? No. Oh, what's that? It's like a floating brain or something? Very weird illustrations. This is making me wonder what the heck I've gotten myself into. We saw that guy with the castle on his head. Dynamite. I just, something like that, something that's a little extra. Very unusual, right, that the SFBC would have these. And think about this too, right? This is they printed these themselves, the Science Fiction Book Club. Very cheap, right? It has, these covers are paper, right? They don't really have a UV coating on them. They're not glossy. So that's why you tend to see them either without the dust jackets out there in the world or just really ratty and destroyed. But they're nice. They're very comfortable to read. They're very light, right? Literally in weight, not necessarily lightweight in content. However, yeah. But this is the book club of the olden days. You will note that there aren't really, sprayed decorative edges. This isn't some kind of deluxe limited edition signed and numbered fairy crate box thing, whatever that is kind of stuff. This is the opposite. This is, hey, you want the hardcover, you're going to get the cheapest hardcover you possibly can and we can possibly make, and we're going to discount it accordingly so that like a young Phil could afford to buy these books. Love them. What else do I know about this book? Really nothing. It doesn't really matter. Authors that I know working together, SFBC edition, gorgeous. Okay, so this next one up is a 4-time winner. There are 4 great things about this book. One, it is another of the great Science Fiction Book Club editions, right? Again, always noted on the inside flap. It also combines the fact that it is the best of Frederick Brown. I love these. Oh, you can see the shadow of my hand. Ooh. I love these single author best of short story collections. This one edited by Robert Bloch. Frederick Brown, obviously a sort of lesser known author, isn't mentioned along with his more famous, we'll say more successful contemporaries, Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, etc. But he is the author of some really interesting stuff. And I'm just really excited to have this for lots of reasons, right? Those 2 things first. You know that I just love Science Fiction Book Club editions. I love these single author best of collections, but also look at this, right? Let's center that so that we can see this amazing cover art by Richard Corbin. Note the signature there too, right? And you know Richard Corbin, if you are I don't know what time period that would have been, right? Late 70s, early 80s, heavy metal magazine fan. Obviously, Corbin is the creator of Den, that really insane series of comics that we've, all discovered, those of us of a certain generation anyway, discovered in heavy metal. You don't see a lot of Richard Corbin book covers. This one is really terrific, right? The Yeti bear hug. Let's see if I can flip this open here to get to the page I want to. There it is. Okay, fourth big win. This anthology, of course, I gotta say, of course, right, starts with the story Arena. So, Star Trek fans, you know that episode of Star Trek, the original series, right? Arena. This is the one where we first meet the Gorn, where there's a sort of a Federation colony that comes under attack. The Enterprise goes to try to help them, and basically the whole colony has been wiped out by some sort of mysterious enemy who turn out to be the Gorn. And so, hostilities, sort of a hot war, begins. And then, so something that Star Trek has kind of gone back to more than once, the super advanced species of aliens who are so advanced that they have now become beings of pure energy. So these sort of pure energy, super advanced aliens see this war happening kind of in this part of the galaxy that they call home. They don't like that, right? War is bad. So they decide to do another sort of very common tropey sort of thing, which is they transport Captain Kirk and the Gorn captain down to this sort of uninhabited planet and make them fight it out. And they are going to go mano a mano against each other, and the winner sort of takes all, right? So whoever loses, their ship is destroyed, and so on, right? So they're going to decide the winner in that way. So Kirk has to figure out how to, cobble together stuff, right, that are sort of found on the planet. Like, we're going to kind of give you enough stuff maybe to get weapons together. I don't know. I won't spoil the ending for you, but it's fantastic. So that teleplay was written by Gene L. Kuhn, who was one of the principal guys behind the scenes, behind the camera at Star Trek. Clearly it was inspired by this short story, this is not a Star Trek story. This is not, I think it was written before Star Trek was even a thing or on the air. It was so close to that, and somebody at some point either noticed that the producers, Roddenberry, whoever else, had to go to Frederick Brown and, with a kind of peace offering, like, like, this is clearly your story turned into a Star Trek story, replacing, the characters and so on, putting it into Federation space and into that very specific Star Trek future. And so made some sort of a deal with Frederick Brown to, avoid whatever litigation might follow from this. So this is pretty cool, right? A piece of, I'm a giant, unashamed, lifelong Trekkie. Why would you ever be ashamed of being a Star Trek fan? So what a 4-time winner. Science Fiction Book Club edition of a single author, best of collection, with a Richard Corbin cover, including the story that is really a fascinating piece of the history of the great, the amazing, the immortal Star Trek. Dynamite. Okay, so finally, the random stuff. This is all still from that one crazy trip to Half Price Books. These were all from the clearance section. I paid $1 each or so, thereabouts. Now look, my giant random TBR stacks, which you've seen the full I think it's 4-part video where I go through all of what I had at that time. Those were 10 giant stacks of books that were completely full. And I told myself, look, at some point you got to stop just buying random sci-fi, fantasy, horror paperbacks, etc. And you got to start reading them at some point and at least circulating a little bit, right? So I have been reading, as usual, not as fast as I would, love to be able to get through books. But again, I'm not trying to get through, but as I said that, I cringe. Don't just get through books. Enjoy, understand, even study books, yeah? So buying them faster than I can read them is what Phil does. So I make no apologies to myself or anyone else for continuing to buy random paperback books. And when I say random, I mean random. I know absolutely nothing about The Artifact by W. Michael Gear. I will manage my glare to the best of my otherwise formidable ability. I know nothing about it and I don't care. It's got a spaceman and a rocket ship on it. It was $1. I wanted it. And I wanted it even though, look at the size of this thing. Oh, Lord. It could stun a space ox. It's like $579.99. No, it's 526 pages long. Oosh. Ay, ay, ay. I tend to suffer over long books. Look at the foil. Embossed, right? It's hard to see maybe, but you can feel his name and the title. Embossed and foiled. We talked about that in a previous video. That's some expensive. There's some expensiveness, right? Daw back in the 90s paid some money for this. Even toward the end of the sprayed edges were like right past, I think, the sprayed edges time period. I said 90s. Yeah, 1990. This is the first printing, March 1990. This is it. I got it. And it's in spell check. No one's read this book. I mean, this spine is just dead perfect. And for a book this long, it's hard to read this and not to, I will, because I'm zany like that. What made me just go, I need this, I have to have this? Not just because it was cheap and I never buy books that I don't intend to read. You know that about me. That is who I am. So anyway, I just saw it there and it was a big fat sci-fi novel. And so I bought it and I have it and I will read it when it comes up at random, I promise. So it's one thing about those random stacks, there's a lot of sci-fi in there for sure. A preponderance of science fiction. I don't have enough fantasy. I don't read enough fantasy anymore. I really need to go back to reading fantasy. I'm definitely gonna. This will help, right? So when I saw mixed in there a lot of fantasy, unfortunately a lot of what was in the clearance section was, book 7 of 49 or whatever, and I'm not gonna just kind of at random decide now I've done that already. I'm doing that with a couple different series as is. At some point you got to go like, okay, right? Give me a book 1 at least. And so fantasy. This one looked really, okay, right? Ties of Blood and Silver by Joel Rosenberg. It says a science fiction novel actually, but man, it looked fantasy to me. But now that I look at it again, I assumed it was fantasy because of the little guy's outfit and the monster, but yeah, now I see the high-tech city in the back. Oh, okay. Oh, because it also said that he's got this magical fantasy series. The City or the Alien. All right, so I stand corrected on Ties of Blood and Silver by Joel Rosenberg, but this still, whatever, sci-fi fantasy. I love the monster. I love all monsters. Fantasy, science fiction, some measure of both. I will definitely read this. I appreciate that it is short, and I know that sounds right. It's not the only thing that draws me to a book. But, I like authors who can get in there, get her done, and get out. It's interesting that then gets stacked right on top of this gigantic, The Artifact, which once again proves Phil's egalitarian nature. Why am I talking about myself in the third person like a crazy man through this video? I don't know. Phil doesn't know either. Byzantium's Crown by Susan Schwartz. This definitely looks more fantasy, for goodness sake. A tale of magic adventure and a prince on a wondrous quest. Susan Schwartz was the World Fantasy Award nominee. Congratulations there. Popular Library Questar Books. That dates it right there, right? Questar Books was a kind of in and out sort of deal. Same thing, right? I just sort of picked it up by its cover, right? Judged the book by its cover, which I thought was kind of evocative. Pretty cool. Look at you. Almost can't see the lady hiding over there. Let me see if I can get that closer to the camera. There she is. What do I know about this? Nothing. I don't want to know anything about it. I want to read it fresh. I want this to come up at random and be like, oh yeah. First printing April 1987. Rowena Morrill cover. Delightful. And just be like, ooh, okay. Fantasy. Gotcha. But yeah, 1987, when fantasy was absolutely king in American publishing. So much was being published, there was no way to keep up with it. So it's not much of a wonder that I have never heard of that and discovered it so many decades later. Moving right along. Still from the clearance section, $1 or so, The Flight of the Dragonfly by Robert L. Forward, author of Dragon's Egg. This is a must, says Publishers Weekly, and Publishers Weekly don't lie to nobody. This is an earlier Bain book, 1985. I don't know, man. I just wanted it. Can I just want sci-fi books? I can. It's got a rocket ship. It looks like, is that Earth and Mars kind of absorbing each other? Well, I'm pretty groovy. I don't know anything about it. It rates a solid 10, says Locus. 10 out of 10, guys. A must, Publishers Weekly. The man damn well knows what he's talking about, says Larry Niven. And in my experience, Larry Niven knows what he's talking about, so yeah. Unlike so much far-out science fiction, The Flight of the Dragonfly is based on the solid scientific reasoning of a world-class physicist. I knew that about Robert L. Forward, right? One of this sort of generation of, could we call him the second generation of hard sci-fi authors? Oh, interior illustrations. Nothing about this that says don't read it. Flight of the Dragonfly by Robert L. Forward. Why not? It will be in the random stacks and it will be read at random. So then there were a couple of Daw books. I think you probably caught a glimpse of Beanstalk by John Rackham. I've got a bunch of books by John Rackham. He was well represented in the later part of the Ace Doubles run. So definitely an author that I know, right? But this was just too cool to pass up. These are actually hard to find now out in the wild. Just Daw books in general, as people have decided they want to collect them, right? Because they have these great yellow spines, which if you can, this one's not terribly faded. I have some that have lost the yellow completely, but they're numbered, and so that triggers a lot of people to just have to have all the numbers, right? This one it was weird that I found this for like $1, $1.25 or whatever it was, especially since it has this crazy Kelly Frias cover. Like, oh my God, this is just all 1973 and everything. This was just like unhesitating, definitely sold. Look at this skinny little teeny weeny book, but then you open it up and it's like, oh, wow, thank you, Lord, for reading glasses. Right? Daw was trying to save a couple shekels, I think, by printing a 158 book, 160 page book probably. Yeah, the text starts on page 5, so 160 pages, and crammed a much longer book into there. Like, this is crammed in. So this will definitely require the old reading glasses, but what the heck, I read with reading glasses on anyway because of my advanced years. Still with the frontispiece illustrations there, tremendous. Beanstalk. What do I know about it? Not much. The Taking of Hylax 4. I don't know, right? But it was never before in paperback, and it is forever in DAW paperback life. The second DAW book, Sleepwalker's World, Gordon R. Dixon, from what I understand, not a Dorsey novel, right around the time those were when all the Dorsey books were coming out. Another one, right? Kelly Freas again. This is 1975, so a couple years later. The New York Times, so says the cover, and they're not going to lie about, Daw's not going to lie about that in 1975 or now. One of the 100 best books of the year, so says the New York Times. That's a, right? Did they put science fiction novels on that list ever? Anyway, this one you can see, somebody's got a little green sticker on there. We'll get rid of that. But you can see this one, the spine is much more faded. When you put them together, you can see how the sun can damage that yellow. Just takes that yellow ink away completely. And again, I have some that you wouldn't know were ever supposed to be yellow. But anyway, Sleepwalker's World looks pretty groovy. Got a spaceman, the lady, and a wolf. What could go wrong with those three elements? The Odyssey reborn as science fiction, and even Homer would be pleased, says the Philadelphia Inquirer. All right, another one, very, very short, 168-page book, jammed in with tiny little text. Look at that little type. Oh my goodness. What is that, 7-point? Reading glasses are essential. Last one. Are you ready for the last one? How is this in the clearance section or whatever, just sitting there like, I don't know, give us like $1.25 for it or whatever. Last book in the video of today, certainly not the least, my upteenth Clifford D. Simak book, Time and Again. This was originally published in 1951, but this here in my hand is the Ace edition with the great Jack Gagan cover. Look at that. Terrific, from 1963. If the guys from Mad Men worked at a publishing house, he tangled the threads of time. Somebody put a little stamp in there. Back in the old days, look at that one, right? Let's just make that title page a kind of illustrated thing with the hand lettered Ace Books Incorporated. 4K. Terrific, right? Clifford Simak, who is honestly, one of the greats from that generation, and he really needs to be recognized more, along with that generation of authors from the really 40s and 50s, right? So this is a novel, right? Just a book from the far future was his ticket through time. Amazing. All right. Love it, man. Love me some Simak. So all these here, this batch, these all go into the 11th. And I want to say final, but what if I got to 12 giant stacks of paperbacks? Then instead of using a D10, or having to do like 2d6 minus 1, which doesn't really give you the perfectly random number, or just doing an online random number generator of 1 to 11, I can use a 12-sided die. Is that what I'm going for? Is that the way my brain works? I don't know. But these are going into the beginnings of the 11th random TBR stack. I cannot be stopped. I have been Phil. This has been Fantasy Author's Handbook. This has been the August 2024 book haul video. It may be the last one for a little while. This is the bad news. So the roof of my house has to be replaced. So if you're a homeowner out there, and like me, you're not independently wealthy, I know you can feel the stress. Just saying that out loud. The roof is leaking. Oh no. Don't say that out loud. It's okay. It only costs $15,000. That means that I have to stop spending money on pretty much anything but getting a new roof. This might be the last book haul video for a little bit, but then who knows, right? This is me, after all.